Hello and welcome to One Tech World. I'm Hoda Rezvanjoo and today we're tackling one of the greatest and frankly most painful contradiction of the modern organizations, decision making in uncertain environments. Imagine you've got all the data, probably unmatched access. You're tracking performance trends in real time with advanced analytics. You've got AI-led forecasters laying out the next 5 quarters. And yet, with all that computing power and all that information, decisions are slowing right down. It's almost expected. That's the paradox we're looking at. If we're so rich in data, why are decisions getting slower, more cautious, full of it depends, and harder to commit to? It can feel like the more we know, the less decisive we become. The irony is hard to miss. We like to think we're living in a data driving utopia, yet we see the same pattern again and again. Teams analyze more, they compare more options, they ask for more reports. And instead of moving forward with confidence, they pause, they hesitate, they delay. The problem isn't the lack of data, it's the structure or the lack of it that the data is being poured into. Okay, let's dive into it. Data does not make decisions, structures do. Most organizations are not stuck because they lack of data. They are stuck because their decisions are badly designed. And that changes everything because when uncertainty goes up, what do the team do first? Do they get more data? Do they collect more numbers, run another pilot, ask for more dashboards or reports? But if the decision itself is poorly set up, the system that is meant to turn inputs into clear choice, then how it's going to be helpful? It just adds noise and make uncertainty louder. So today I want to unpack that problem. Why can a flood of information slow us down instead of speeding us up? And what actually fixes it? The answer is simple, but not easy. Before data can be useful, you need three things in place: clear boundaries, real constraints, and basic logic for how the decision will be made. We are not chasing perfections, we are chasing clarity. I want to unpack this properly, starting with the evidence behind the hesitation we keep seeing. A lot of it comes down to one thing: the sheer volume of information and how mixed and messy it often is. That's the decision dilemma. And research backs up what you can feel in a boardroom. Managers today are making far more decisions than they used to, but most of them also say the amount of data they deal with makes decisions harder, not easier. Some managers, when they face with too much information, they don't just slow down, they stop. They admit they sometimes abandon the decision. They hit a mental limit and doing nothing become the easiest option. This is where a well-known idea helps explain what is happening. The inverted U curve. Uh, Picture it like this. On the left, you have very little information, so decision quality is low, and you're basically guessing. And as you add more information, decision quality improves. That's the useful stage where data genuinely helps. But then you reach the top point, the peak, the point where extra information stops helping and starts getting in the way. Beyond that optimal point, adding more information doesn't just need it. It actively harms the process. It forces you to deal with conflicting signals. endless possibilities, and it's just increasing cognitive load until it overwhelms you. So too little data is guesswork, and too much leads directly to analysis paralysis. The curve drops off, and it drops off steeply. I think the reason this is that we've all been conditioned to believe more information equals better insight. If a data point exists, we feel like we have to consider it. But that mindset treats information as a passive thing, when in reality, it's an active demand on our very limited attention. If you are swimming in an ocean of possibilities, you can't commit to a single path because you're paralyzed by the fear of missing that one perfect piece of data, that hidden factor. And when the decision structure is unclear, data doesn't clarify reality. It just amplifies all the ambiguity and uncertainty. It becomes noise. So the clarity we've all craving for isn't found in another dashboard. It is restored by a structure, a foundational structure that defines priorities, limits the problem, and contains that uncertainty. Without it, no amount of data will move you forward. So a structure is the answer. We have to be really clear about what that looks like. Because when most people hear decision framework, they think a template, a checklist, right? So it is not a checklist or a template. A decision framework is a system. And the key difference there, the difference between a checklist and a system is that a system is designed to make all the assumptions, the limits, and trades off explicit from the very start. It's an active mechanism, not a passive document. So it's a living thing. But I have to ask, in a super competitive, fast changing environment, isn't building a rigid system kind of counterproductive? Don't we want maximized flexibility? That's the classic challenge. But a well designed system actually enables flexibility within defined parameters. The framework doesn't decide the outcome for you, it decides the rules of engagement. A perfect way to put it is that this system defines four critical things. So, what decision is actually being made, where the boundaries sit, what constraints apply, and maybe the most importantly, which information is signal and which is distraction. So it can help him to move fast forward and even when the information is not complete, because everyone agrees on a playing field and that's it, it's progress over perfection. This whole system is built on three core elements. This is the really actionable part of it, and let's go into it. The first core element is decision boundaries. This is all about defining what the system is responsible for, and just as critically, what it is not. Defining the scope before you even think about the data, before you do anything. Uh, you can see how a lack of boundaries leads, how the lack of data uh, you can see straight away that how having no boundaries leads to the scope creep. If you set no boundaries, teams try to optimize everything at once. They want to launch the new products in every region across all the channels and also having five worst case scenarios. Then you can get the classic problem that if everything is priority, nothing is. Decision making can slow down because the complexity just blow up. Here is a practical example. Imagine a company trying to decide its marketing spend. If the boundary is vague, the team ends up digging through customers' data from 5 continents and 8 different platforms, and it becomes a chaos very quickly. But if the boundary is clear, the decision becomes much smaller and clear. For example, this decision is only about product adoption in North America, and we're focusing only on Instagram and TikTok. Suddenly, most of the noise disappears. That's why boundaries have to be explicit. You need to say from the start what is included and what is deliberately excluded. It turns an impossible problem into a manageable one. It's drawing a clear line around the space you're actually working in. Okay, so boundaries set the scopes. But inside that scope, what stops us from dreaming up endless ideas that look brilliant but are completely unrealistic? That takes us to the second element, constraint and trade-off. Every real decision sits inside limits: time, budget, regulation, risk appetite. A good decision framework forces these limits to come out early, because a common reason projects fail late is that a hidden constraints suddenly show up and derail everything. You see it at all the time. After weeks of work, someone finally mentioned the budget, and these constraints cannot just live as vague assumptions in someone's head. Like we probably shouldn't spend more than 5 million. They need to be formal, visible, and ideally built into the decision process itself. Uh, what does it mean in practice is if you're using analysis or a model, the system should enforce the constraints. If the budget is 5 million, the model should only show options that cost 5 million or less. Full stop. So the constraints become non-negotiable rules. And that's a useful shift in thinking. Constraints are not obstacles to fight, they are anchors. They keep the decision tied to reality. They also force trades off early, not at the end. If we want more speed, maybe we accept higher risk and agree that upfront. If we want more certainty, maybe we accept a slower timeline. Anchors stop you wasting time and options that were never valid. They help the team agree on what is acceptable before everyone gets attached to an idea that is simply not working. That brings us to the final piece, where boundaries and constraints finally connect with the data, decision logic. This is the engine. This is the part that decides how the input, the data we agreed matter, get turned into a clear outcome. In other words, it's how you choose the best path. It tells you which signals matter and by default, which information is just noise. You can think of it as the ranking and scoring method a team uses to choose option A over option B. But the key is a structure, not complexity. This is where you make the rules clear. You define how much weight different factors get. You decide how to score cost versus benefit. You rank options against constraint you have already set. Some sources talk about optimization routine, but the main point is not whether you use a simple spreadsheet or sophisticated AI model. The main point is what structure you build into the logic. What are the rules for prioritizing? What are you optimizing for? Long-term retention or immediate profit? That one choice changes how the data is interpreted and what the system pushes you forward. So if you follow the tree, we've moved from huge sea of data to a defined structure that says what are the solving for the boundaries, what are the limited by the constraints, and how we choose is the logic. That's the full architecture. These three pieces do not remove uncertainty. They contain it and they make it manageable. And this is become even more important and honestly more risky when we bring in the most powerful tool we now have, artificial intelligence. Here's the part that people miss. AI does not fix bad decisions. It accelerates them. That should worry you. A speed without a structure is chaos. A speed powered by technology can turn chaos into something instant, scalable, and hard to undo. When the framework is clear, when the boundaries, constraints, and logic are defined, AI is genuinely useful. It can explore thousands of scenarios, test trades up, and compare alternatives faster than any team can do. It has trains good judgment. But when the framework is unclear, the same as speed become dangerous. AI can create false confidence. It produce answers that look precise and professional, even down to tiny decimal points. But those answers are built on vague questions, missing limits, and logic that is optimizing for the wrong goal. For example, if you do not give the model the real constraint, it might optimize production perfectly and still suggest something that needs three times your budget. The model does not know it is impossible unless you tell it. So it does not improve the decision. It speeds up a bad one and make it look credible. This is the big reasons why so many AI initiatives fails in real organizations. The technology is not necessarily weak. The decision underneath it was never properly designed. The boundaries were unclear, the constraints were hidden, and the logic was not agreed. AI just amplified that weakness. The tech is strong, but the foundation is fragile. AI magnifies whatever is placed into it. It should be accelerator for good decision design, not replacement for it. So here is the main takeaway. Better decisions do not come from more data. They come from better structure that shifts the focus from coping with the information overload to actively designing clarity. If you're facing a big decision or you want to fix this pattern in your team, you can boil it down to three practical principles. First, separate data collection from decision design. Before you gather more data or open another dashboard, be clear about what problem you are solving and what boundaries it sits within. Define the structure first. Let the structure tells you what data you need, not the other way around. Second, make constraint visible early, but and build them into the process. Time, budget, risk. Put them on the table before you discuss options. Hidden constraints are what blow up decisions later. When you set these anchors upfront, you avoid painful late stage changes. Third, reduce options before you increase analysis. The more options you try to evaluate at once, the heavier the mental load and the more likely you freeze. Fewer well defined options, shaped by clear boundaries and constraints, force judgments and leads to faster, clear decisions. This is really a shift from managing information to managing uncertainty through deliberate design. Agree on the map first, then use the data to navigate. Uncertainty will always be part of real decisions. You cannot delete it. But the boundaries, constraint, and logic, you can contain it. You can make it small enough to handle. So next time you face an important decision, do not start with the spreadsheet. Design the decision first. Define the boundaries. Surface the constraints and establish the logic, then open the dashboard and see how much clearer everything becomes. Ask yourself one question: what constraints are you building for your data? Thank you for your time and
We'd be happy to answer any questions.